Naptown Tuner here. We've got a 2013 Porsche Cayenne GTS. We've got a stripped out drain plug. These drain plugs can strip out two different ways. The threads can strip out, but in this case, we've got the insert that's stripped out. My brother at Thomas Imaging on Instagram, he takes pictures of exotics at dealerships. You want to check that out. He took this to a shop to get a quote. $5,000 to replace the oil pan because this stripped out plug. We're about to change it out. Now we get to see this drain plug. Let's take a good look at this thing. This is the $5,000 drain plug. He was just taking it to a shop for an oil change. It was a specialty European type shop capable of these things. But since they saw an oil leak at the oil pan region, they said, well, it needs the oil pan replaced. We're not even going to attempt to take this drain plug out. We're not even going to do an oil change at all for you. Here's this $5,000 estimate for this oil change, quote unquote. So theoretically, an oil leak was the reason for this, but they didn't clean off the engine. They didn't really know exactly where this oil leak was coming from. Typically, we'll get into the oil leak content later. We are going to fully go through this eventually and take a look at possibly doing the valve covers first and then washing off the engine, and then we'll evaluate precisely the oil leak and how bad the oil leak is. Currently, yeah, it looks bad, but the engine has never been cleaned and it's not actively dripping on the ground. He's parking in the garage. You're not actually seeing any drips on the floor yet. So it's not that bad. We're going to change the drain plug and reevaluate in the future. You want to subscribe. And they already tried to put an extractor in it. I can tell by looking at it. I see these swirl marks. Apparently they said that they weren't even going to attempt to take this plug out. Is that what they said?
Yeah.
All right, well,
$5,000 for a new oil pan.
We're going to have to attempt. It looks like they wallered that hole out so much that it is a perfect cone. So my brother got this extractor set from whatever kind of research he did, which I've used this a bunch, but I do not like these type of extractors. Check out what I got. You can barely see this. I think that says metric. You can barely see this. You can see the snap-on tool corp right here, but it says snap-on up here as well. This has got to be from the 1950s or 60s. It's got every single piece still in it except one. And I would probably go for this maybe as well, but I've got a different method. I don't expect this to work. I definitely don't expect this type of extractor to work. It doesn't have enough bite on it. Something like this is going to have a lot more bite. You can see the tighter spirals, the tighter fit. This is too much of a cone. These are the two largest sizes I have in my kit. I honestly did not expect either one of these or anything in this kit to work, but I want to milk this video out for everything it's worth, and I want to start easy and then go more complicated. Hopefully this does not work because I want to do my method, but as you can tell, this drain plug is recessed inside this aluminum pan, so I can't just take pliers in here and pull it out like I could normally do. First, I'm just going to show you the big one. The big one doesn't even fit. Now I could take a drill bit and make that hole a little bit bigger, but I'm going to try for this smaller one first. And typically what you do is you just get a hammer and you tap it up into place. I'm going to go ahead and get my small brass hammer to start. Most people would go straight for the big boy, the 4-pounder sledge, or maybe like a 2-pounder, but I'm going to start with the small brass hammer. The brass hammer is really good whenever you're maybe like trying to fit a chrome socket onto a fastener, or whenever you're hammering on tools, because the brass is going to give before the actual tool will mushroom. So I'm just going to kind of hold it right here. The thing is, I want to get it as even as possible. So if it's a little bit crooked, I'm going to try to straighten it out before I start forcing it in. You know what I did? I forgot to give you my special sauce. We're going to put the special sauce on here. I learned this from an IndyCar mechanic, valve grinding compound. This is going to give me some extra grip on this extractor, but you can also use this inside hex bolts, inside Torx bolts, even on regular sockets and bolts. I'm gonna smear it on in there. Make sure it's clean first. You don't want oil in that hole. So We're going to go ahead and fill it liberally with the valve grinding compound. And now I'm going to hammer it home. Get it straight. Now I'm going to try something different as well. Before I just twist on it, I'm going to try an impact driver. A nice snap-on impact driver. Now, first off, I don't want to use something like this, a deep well, because I want to make sure it's 6-point, and I want to make sure that this fits really perfect, and I want to make sure it has a lip on here to where it actually sits against this socket, so the applied force goes directly into this fastener. And now I'm just going to make sure that it's turned the right way. I'm going to hold this like that, put a little bit of force on it in the off direction, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go to my 4-pound sledge now. So let's just see if this works. It really might just spin. Do you have good light on this? Is that good? Oh yeah, look at that. I really didn't want that to be so easy. I mean, come on. Come on. So I already talked about why it's very important to get the proper size. There's even kits that have like 50 of these in them. I suggest getting that, because if you go using something like this, there's not enough surface area on this easy out. This literally will spin, and the cone is way too large. This is just junk. You got to get something specific that bites really tight. And then the benefit of using an impact driver is if you just use a regular wrench or you just put sideways force on it, you're not getting, this is literally called an impact driver. You're getting an up impact, so you're pushing in and you're twisting at the same time. If I was just to put impact on it, like a impact driver electric tool, like a electric impact, a regular ratchet or a powered ratchet, you're only getting that sideways applied force. You have to get up into it, you have to hammer into it and spin it at the same time. That jolts it loose and spins it free. You can't underestimate the impact driver. That's a common thing for everybody's done brakes and had a set screw inside the brake rotor, and everybody's had the thing strip out and then you have to drill it out. You should use that more often whenever you can, especially in drain plugs.